War Eagle, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live. This is where we get together on these live streams and talk about what's going on in the world of Auburn family news, discuss it, hear about your opinions. I share my opinions, anything and everything between. We usually come here to the table with a topic ready at hand, but anything is fair game here. Whatever you want to talk about is what we'll talk about here on this live stream. Speaking of live streams, we're broadcasting live on two different formats at the exact same time. We're here on YouTube right in front of me. As always, the YouTube crew is already assembling in there. And today, we're trying something a little bit different. We've got Facebook up here today. And I already see some familiar faces from when we used to do the Facebook live streams all the time. We're giving it another shot today alongside the YouTube folks. So welcome in, whether you're watching live on one of these two formats or you're watching this on the replay. We really appreciate you being here and giving us a look and seeing if you want to hang out with us right now. Speaking of NFL, there's some somewhat breaking NFL news for Auburn related and the coaching staff stuff. And some people are already talking about that. So don't you know? See, here's the thing. Every time we do one of these live streams, something happens, like news breaks or something. So I'm sure we'll address that in just a second here as we go forward. Couple of things before we get started. For those of you that are new, my name is Kyle. I am the editor and owner of the E2C Network, which is a family of Auburn Family podcast, is essentially what the easier way of saying that. So if you have not checked that out, I hope that you'll do so. In fact, what I'm going to do right here for the folks on YouTube as normal is remind you of a couple of things, ways you can help support our content here. Sorry, Facebook folks, you won't be able to see this. So you can come over to YouTube if you'd like that. If you would like to check out the podcast and you have not yet, I'm putting the link in the chat window for those of you that would like to check it out on Apple Podcasts. It's available anywhere. If it's not available on yours of choice, please let me know, and we will make sure that gets out to you. We also have a Patreon campaign called the E2C Network Booster Club that I'm putting in the chat window for those of you that want to help support the content here. You can do it for as little as $1 a month. Get yourself some perks, get featured on a podcast, all kinds of good stuff at certain levels, apparel and stuff like that. That I hope that you'll go check out and at least see it right now. The way we run it right now, you can actually sign up for it and not have to pay until the beginning of the month. So you can kind of see if it's worth your while and then see if you want to keep it or not. But we've got several people, and I see some familiar faces that are part of the Booster Club here that we really appreciate y'all's support. As you're coming in, do me a favor on either of the two formats here. Will you please make sure you smash that like button? This is always more fun when we have lots of people in here, and that does help draw people in to the live stream to help be a part of it today. And if you haven't on YouTube, subscribe and hit that notification bell. That's all the stuff at the beginning that usually everybody hates. What's funny is that we always get at least one person that complains about that stuff at the beginning. You kind of have to do it. I mean, that's just the way it works right here. That's, you know, how you build a brand and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, that always kind of shocks me that people are offended by that. Anyway, let me say hello to a couple of people. I see Ben Spooner, familiar face from Facebook live streams in the past. Jeff Duggins is watching. Hello, Jeff. Auburn fan, he says, Tracy Rocker is going to the NFL. Well, that's not the intended topic that I had today for the Auburn and the NFL update that we were going to discuss, but it's appropriate. How appropriate. I had originally planned maybe for our big topic to be to break down the Auburn baseball schedule, but, you know, that's something that's a little bit more evergreen, so I figured we could save it to tomorrow or something else. Joe Rudolph is here. Thanks for being here, Joe. War Productions is here. Jack Singley, Rocker to the Eagles. So can anybody, AJ's also here on the live stream as well. Thanks for being here, AJ. Can anybody confirm, is this true? I've got a source that has told me that's pretty good, that is likely to happen, but is it official? Can anybody confirm, is Tracy Rocker official? You know, Pete Thamel, while he's kind of been breaking some stories lately and kind of seeming to be right, you have to question him always, especially with his time during the Cam Newton saga. So I always kind of wonder, how much does he actually know? So if that's true, somebody confirm that for me, because I literally got that text for that update from my source right as right as we were going live here. I was like, great, gotta process all that. Excuse me, I'm trying to clear my throat a little bit. Let's see, Gardner coming back, hopefully. Maybe, I don't know, those bridges might be burned at this point. It depends on what he would like to do and what Coach Harsin wants. I think that would kind of heal some wounds a little bit from the whole Travis Williams situation. Not that you would want that you'd always want Travis Williams over Rodney Garner, probably. No offense to Rodney Garner, but that might heal some of the Auburn players' wounds that are kind of feeling a little shocked by him not being retained. Remember the Iron Bowl, how Auburn fans thought they were going to win it, which I am, but I'm smart, not really understanding what you're saying there. If Rocker goes to the NFL, does that mean we hire T. Will back? I don't think so, Yehan, because that's two different positions. Now, that's up to T. Will, right? Maybe he was in the running, a legitimate contender for that outside linebacker position, and maybe he consider a positional coaching change to defensive line. I doubt it, but he might. I really imagine T. Will comes back after this. I don't know, guys. I have not heard anything. Like I said, I've got my phone here live streaming for Facebook, so I can't really check in on some things that way, but I just don't see it happening for T. Will. So I think y'all probably need to not get your hopes up about that. So proud of Carlton Davis. He is doing great in the NFL. I agree. And that's kind of some of the things I wanted to talk about today. But since we're kind of breaking down this Tracy Rocker situation, how do y'all feel about Tracy Rocker at this point? If this is true, are we all good with Tracy Rocker? Because to me, it's not that I wasn't excited to have him back. There was something about the way he left the last time I didn't really like. And then he kind of stayed away from Auburn when he had other opportunities, I think, to come back. And so now he's got an opportunity to come back to Auburn. He takes it, but then decides to go to the NFL. I mean, maybe he's got higher coaching aspirations. You can't really fault the dude for that. But I kind of stings a little bit, if I'm honest. Just being honest. I believe we may keep T. Will since we have an extra line coach for Boise. So that is a potential. I had not thought about that angle. Brent, what's going on? Thanks for being here on Facebook. I had not thought about that, Joe. That's actually a pretty good. So Jeff Schmedding is the inside linebacker and defensive run game coordinator. They could slide him into defensive and bring Travis Williams back as the outside, or do all kinds of configurations, right? So this actually, now that I'm thinking about it and you're talking about it, that makes a lot of sense, right? I just don't know. I get the feeling that Travis Williams may be a little bit burnt by this whole situation. What a mess! I guess you're saying what a mess, referring to the Rocker situation. This is the coaching carousel. When you go through all of this stuff, things get crazy, man. It just kind of gets a little bit kajumbled at times. Yeah, I'll definitely be a little hurt if he leaves. Yehan, I'm. That's kind of where I'm at with this. It's like, why don't you want to be at Auburn? You're famous here. You've got a full-blown banner outside of Jordan-Hare about you. You're a Lombardi award winner for Auburn. Why wouldn't you want to be here? I don't know. That just, to me, and again, this is all speculation. I've not seen it officially confirmed. I've just seen Pete Thamel's report. And sometimes you got to take that with a grain of salt with Pete Thamel and his track record that he's had in the past. We'll see. He promised to stay at South Carolina, then a week later came here, said he was probably going to retire here, then bailed again. Yeah, so that's kind of the problem. I'm not trying to, I don't want to impugn his character or anything like that, but it just kind of makes you wonder what's Tracy Rocker's, what's his plan in all this? Because he's not being very honest, it seems like. And I think things change. Coaching situations happen, but it's tough to figure out. What's up, Kenneth? My uncle's on the live stream. Good to see you, Kenneth. So what happened? If you're asking about the Tracy Rocker situation, apparently he is going to get hired for the Eagles defensive line position. That's the word, and it's expected that he's going to take that. Be completely shameful for Rocker if he left. This is Stan saying this, I would no longer consider him an Auburn family. Well, it's a little harsh, Stan. I won't go that far, honestly. I don't think that I'll go that far with it. I understand your sentiment, though. I really do. I completely understand being a little bit hurt by it and stuff like that. You even admit perhaps I'm a little overdramatic. It's all right. As long as here's my thing. You can be dramatic. You can use hyperbole as long as you acknowledge that you're maybe being that way. I can respect that all day. But yeah, I'm a little hurt, to be honest with you. Each team in the NFL playoffs has an Auburn player. The exact premise with why I set up this live stream today. So that's kind of, and a lot of people are coming in. We've got some new faces. The way we set these up, each day we do them, I come with a major topic. Obviously, want to talk about that a lot, but we can shift gears. I think one day, actually, we didn't even talk about the topic I had, is whatever y'all wanted to talk about, because this live stream's for you. It's made by you. It's for you. So whatever you want to talk about in the Auburn spectrum, or we can get off the Auburn spectrum, but it'll be weird if we don't. I'll be a lot happier if we can get T-Will back, though. So honestly, here, quick poll of the room. Facebook, YouTube, everybody. Yes or no, would you prefer, and this is harsh, so I hope we don't take this though. Would you prefer to have Tracy Rocker or T-Will? Which would you prefer? And I mean, I would love a scenario where we could have both, but I don't know that that's going to happen. Which would you prefer? Apparently, 4-star Trevin Wallace is no longer a lock for us since T-Will's exit. And look, that's one of the. I'm not shocked by that whatsoever. T-Will was a great recruiter. He was a player's coach, and in a sense, while he wasn't the lead recruiter, he kind of was in his charisma, the way he connected with players. So unfortunately, that's going to be some of the blowback of this, right? And so I hope that Coach Harsin knew some of that going in. And you can't make coaching decisions off of one player. You can't. As much as that, like, that's me saying that as the Cadillac fan, knowing that Tank Bigsby was probably going to go if we didn't keep him. But you can't make decisions off of that. So keeping Gardner now, or T-Will do offensive line. So what we discussed, originally I said I didn't think that T-Will would come back. But then someone earlier in the stream, before you got here, Kenneth, proposed this. So we brought over Jeff Smeding from Boise State, where Coach Harsin was, to be inside linebackers coach and a defensive run game coordinator, whatever that is these days. You know, now you add passing game coordinator, defensive run game coordinator, whatever. It's just a title they can have so they can get a, certain amount of pay. Doesn't mean they're not doing their job. It's kind of the way it is. So I would say what it seems to be a potential, if Coach T-Will doesn't seem too spurned by all this, you move Jeff Smeding back to his original positional coach situation he had at Boise State at defensive line. Can keep him as the defensive run game coordinator. Either move T-Will to inside linebackers, or move, I haven't even learned his name completely yet, the one we just hired for outside linebackers, and give T-Will outside. There's a possibility. There's actually a route. We've talked through it here. So I think you're going to see a lot of excitement about the T-Will possibility now. Everybody, don't get your hopes up. Let me just set this up for you now. Do not get your hopes up. But everybody wants T-Will. We asked the question, Tracy Rocker, T-Will, Rocker for the D-line. Apparently Josh is saying we've got a confirmation here. Tracy Rocker to the Eagles, T-Will. Hopefully Lee Hunter won't ask for a national letter of intent release with all his confusion at that position. I would imagine that Coach Harsin and whoever is going to be the recruiting coordinator have made him priority number one. I would imagine that Trey Mason and Coach Harsin have been on him white on rice and have tried, because you've seen him recruiting a lot for us on social media with some other players. So I don't think that I do think that Lee is going to be the centerpiece for the defense, and they're going to do everything in their power to make sure they secure him at that position and to be here. Randomly caught you live again. I got to hit that bell. Or you appreciate it. If I had to pick between the two, I'd have to say T-Will, because Rodney Garner was already a good enough defensive line coach. Okay. This low key could be a blessing if he wasn't going to recruit for anyways. If he wasn't going to be a great recruiter. I think a lot of people have that opinion of him, that he wasn't a great recruiter, but you can't deny what he did with Nick Fairley and some of the other guys here. He was a great coach. Maybe not a great recruiter, but a great coach. Everybody wants Lee Hunter. Isn't it funny is like how quickly our mindset shifts from the coach that we're losing to what recruits are we going to lose. Honestly, with Rocker being such a lazy recruiter, I'm not actually mad. So look, I'm not going to say as far that he's a lazy recruiter. I just don't think that he has the recruiting prowess that some other players, or former players obviously, but other coaches have shown. I value more his coaching ability and what he's done with players that had good potential, but he brought them up to that potential. So I think, and I see this narrative a lot in our chat, and I'm not saying y'all are wrong, but we've got to stop putting so much focus on recruiting. I know it's fun. I know it's flashy. I know it feels good to get the 4 and the 5 stars, but you got to stop focusing so much on that. There's bigger stuff to this than just recruiting. There's bigger stuff than just development. It's a whole encompassing thing here. All right, soapbox, put away. Tracy didn't recruit Lee Hunter. He signed his letter even after Garner was let go and there was no D-line coach. Exactly, Kenneth. I do think that. I think he's fine right now, but I would say we need to figure this out quickly. And that might be the best of a bad situation, right? Shift Jeff Smedding down. Bring T. Will in at that other position at linebacker. Problem solved. So there's an easy route for this. And here we thought, guys, that the coaching search was done. Oh, how little did we know. A lot of you are coming in. If you haven't, please do smash that like button. We got a good crowd assembling here as well, but I would imagine we could find some new friends today here, with the NFL topic on hand. There's always, new when we do interesting shifts. We've been talking a lot about Auburn coaching searches and stuff like that. We're talking mainly about NFL stuff today. Rocker seems to have an issue with loyalty. T. Will not. I mean, but T. Will's not been coaching as long as Tracy Rocker, and T. Will's still trying to get his feet set. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but I see your point on that, Larry. He does seem to bounce around a little bit too much and doesn't seem to show an affinity for staying at Auburn. Question: who will have the better game today? Jeremiah Denson or Denson or Davis? Now, Jeremiah is not playing, if I'm correct. It's Jameel Dean and Carlton Davis. My understanding is that Carlton Davis is the starter. Jameel Dean is the backup behind him. Now, depending on the way the defense is set up, I haven't paid attention to the Buccaneers all that much this year. They might play a lot together. Carlton Davis seems to be making the biggest noise, right? I think it seems like he had an interception almost every other game or something like that. There were a couple times I think he had 2 picks. So I would say Carlton Davis is making a name for himself, and you can see him probably make some noise, some big noise. Coming in late, what happened? Did Rocker leave? That seems to be the case. Again, I think a lot of you have pointed out, it seems like every time we do one of these live streams, some news either breaks during it, right after it, or, as we're starting, which was the case today. So, yeah. Cardwell, and we're talking about that running back, I guess, who's picking between Auburn and Oregon. To sign tomorrow morning is going to either pick us or Oregon. I have not heard a lot of hype towards Auburn. I could be wrong. It's literally gone back and forth. I am a cautious optimism person, and in this case, I'm going to expect him to sign with Oregon and be pleasantly surprised and happy if he signs with Auburn. Because that's just the way it feels to me right now. All right, so this is obviously all Auburn related, but I'm just kind of curious since it's kind of in the topic. Who wins today, everybody? NFC and AFC championships. Who wins? Who you got? Put it in the Facebook comments and the YouTube comments. So you've got in the NFC, you've got Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Green Bay Packers. AFC, you've got the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills. I guess that's a question of who I think will win. I think the Green Bay Packers will win in this scenario. And I think that the Chiefs will win and we'll have a Packers versus Chiefs Super Bowl. But I do also think that I would prefer to see a Buffalo Bills versus a Buccaneers Super Bowl, because how different is that? We haven't seen the Buccaneers there in almost 2 decades, it seems like. We haven't seen the Bills there in decades upon decades, and even in the time when they were going every year, they lost every time. So it'd be fun to have them back there. I like what do they call it? Not spontaneity, but parity. I like parity within sports, and that's why I love college football so much, because there's so many teams. It's easier to get parity, except the last couple of years. That's been a little bit frustrating. We've got a Bucks and Bills pick there. So Davis already has a big part. New Gravedigger secondary. Let's see. Taking all bets. Felix, good to see you, my man. A. Robinson, yeah, we've already talked about that a little bit. It looks like that is the case, that he's about to leave, unfortunately. And we've got a Pack fan here. So I think the Packers and the Chiefs are going to play in the Super Bowl, but we'll see what happens. I kind of want to see the Bills versus the Buccaneers because I think that would just be more entertaining overall. So Auburn today, on their social media, the football account, posted the picture of AU at the next level. And there were 5 players that are currently on teams. All 4 teams have a Auburn representative on them. To what degree, we'll talk about in just a second. The biggest being the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because you've got Carlton Davis, who appears to be the starter at cornerback. And then on the actual depth chart, if you look on there, that's the way it's listed, Jameel Dean is right behind him. So I imagine they play together sometimes at the same time. Probably not all that much, though, if that's the way the depth chart is laid out there. But that's pretty good representation for Auburn, and I think that shows how happy the pedigree is coming out from Auburn at defensive back. And, it's funny because we talk a lot about how Auburn's defensive backfield always seems to be on the weaker side, but yet we're putting talent in. I mean, Carlton Davis, Jameel Dean, Javaris Davis went not too long ago with Jonathan Jones. We just sent Noah Igbenogany. Who would have thought, right? I never thought in a million years he'd be a first rounder, but there he is last year in the surprise end of the first round. So yeah, I do think defensive back has been one of those things that's kind of really risen for Auburn under the Coach Malzahn era, and those that he sent to the NFL. A lot of people want to argue that Coach Malzahn didn't send anybody to the NFL. He sent a few people there, and they've turned out really well. Maybe not a lot, but a few that have turned out well. War Productions, yes, ranked 23rd in preseason baseball. We're probably, barring big information, which may now shift with the whole Tracy Rocker situation, we'll probably talk about baseball stuff in more detail tomorrow. We'll see. Haven't decided just yet on what I want to do tomorrow. Sumo wrestlers would make great offensive linemen in American football. A lot of similarities in technique. Go Bills. This is an interesting comment, but fair one. Yeah, they do seem to share a little bit of techniques. The whole stomping in and stuff like that, pushing people around. Literally, that's what sumo wrestling seems to be. I'm not a sumo wrestler, obviously, so I don't want to sit here and say I know exactly how that goes. But that's what it seems to be on the most basic level. So yes, I agree with that. That potentially could be. Oh, in fact, yes. Let me just say this on the baseball note, since A.U. Robinson's brought it up. I had somebody on the stream yesterday ask what I think the questions were like, who are we returning? What seniors decided to come back? New players coming in. I should have reread it before. I reached out to a person who knows the baseball program fairly well, and I don't have all those names handy right now. But I do have. If you asked that yesterday, I do have some of that information. I'll try to memorize it for tomorrow. So just so you know that I did look that up for you. Yes, always go Auburn Tigers. What I meant was Buck's secondary is called the Gravediggers, and Carlton's the big reason why. Yes. I thought that's what you meant, Kenneth. It's always hard with the whole typing thing sometimes. It doesn't come through exactly how you meant it. Most Auburn football players make it and stay in the NFL for at least 5 to 10 years, and I think that was a good selling point for Coach Malzahn. Not just him, but other coaches, is that you may not send, a lot, but the ones that are going there, you can tell they've been coached up, and which is funny because one of the biggest drawbacks the last couple of years is, we don't develop them. Well, NFL coaches disagree. So defensive backs, there's not a lot of argument there for some other areas, maybe so, but defensive backs right there. So we talked about Tampa Bay. On the other side of the NFC, Green Bay Packers, Montravius Adams is part of the defensive line. Now, I went and looked at the depth chart, and if I remember correctly, just thinking through, he was like 3rd on the depth chart. Making sure I've got this right, too. Yes. So it doesn't seem like you see him a whole lot as things fall out from underneath me. Sorry about that loud noise. Sometimes things get crazy around here in the E2C Network headquarters. So it doesn't seem like you see him a whole lot which is kind of disappointing because of how just dominant he was when he was here. I mean, literally like a rock wall people would run into. But he will be represented today in the NFL NFC championship game. AFC wise, Buffalo Bills. You've got Duke Williams. So let me ask a question of the room here. And this is not in any way degrading Duke Williams for his time that he had here. Do you consider Duke Williams an Auburn Tiger? Because he's kind of one of those weird situations where if you made the case that he wasn't, I wouldn't necessarily fault you, right? Because he spent half a season here? Did some good things in that half a season. But he wasn't here that long. But he's on the Buffalo Bills, and maybe he'll he'll keep doing some good things there. But I went to the depth chart and I didn't even see him there. I would imagine he's one of those extra players that you have there. But do you consider him an Auburn football family member, if that's the case? We've got a yes, we got a no, we've got an absolutely. But yeah. So looking at the typing with fat fingers does suck. Yeah, he helped while he helped while he wasn't in trouble. So yeah, okay. So and that's kind of the way I fall on this as well. If you spend some time here in Auburn family member, but he's on the Buffalo Bills side, and it obviously doing a few things there for him. Even though he doesn't appear in the depth chart, I didn't see him there at all. I said yes, Duke talking about his time at Auburn, made some sick catches in traffic. He just was like a dominant, just his body type at wide receiver should have been just so good. And if he had just stayed out of trouble, he would have been just outstanding at Auburn. Imani says, yes, I do consider him. War Eagle to you, hillbilly. He even admitted he messed up and didn't go to any other school after, and even was allowed to go to pro day at Auburn. So, and see, I like that, right? I see a guy that understands that most of his time at Auburn was wasted by him and not necessarily like mismanaged by Auburn. I admire that. And I think that it shows that how much there is this family bond between the Auburn football program, that even if you end on bad terms, we might not like you or just disagree with you a little bit, but we're still part of the family. So that's great. And I thought most of you would say yes, which you did. I think there's one or two no's, and that's fine because I think there's an argument there for it. But I do think that you could still consider him part of the Auburn football family. He's mostly practice team, and that's what I thought, that he doesn't see a lot of time there. But, they count us. They count to, and of course, Auburn, with their social media posts, is going to claim anybody they can as part of the team to push the narrative that they're putting people in the NFL, and they should. Let's see. Where I thought I saw somebody else make a comment that he's mostly on the practice. All right, we talked about that. So the other one that we didn't mention, we talked about the Buccaneers, the Packers, and the Bills. The Chiefs, technically Prince Tega-Wannego Jr. is part of the Chiefs team. Now, I think he has just been re-signed and hasn't really participated a whole lot. Correct me if I'm wrong. But that's another one. So there's not really much to get excited about there, and you don't really, unfortunately, as important as they are, you don't really pay attention a whole lot to the offensive linemen. But there's another one if you want to put that feather in Auburn football's cap for their representation in the NFL. So there you go. Carlton Davis, Jamil Dean, Duke Williams, Prince Tega-Wannego Jr., and Montravius Adams are your representation at Auburn. That's pretty good amount of players there, and some on some prominent stages there. So who do you think is most likely to end up in the Super Bowl out of all those players? I mean, I guess the main question there, which of those players or which of those teams do you think end up in the Super Bowl is probably the big thing there. Hillbilly, yeah, we talked about that news broke about right as we started the stream about Tracy Rocker, and we haven't gotten an official confirmation, but it seems to be the case that that's happening. The best NFL export in years is D Ford. Probably that's a fair case that you could make. I would say that D Ford is probably the one that's done the biggest amount of the most with it. For a while, obviously, it was Cam Newton, but he's had his struggles, and he won't. That's kind of the reason he's kind of fallen off on the radar. So, yeah, I think D Ford is probably there. But the defensive backs like Carlton Davis, Jonathan Jones, there's been a lot of not big names defensive back-wise, but if you look across the NFL rosters, you'll see a lot of them there. They're doing good things. So Kenneth thinks Carlton and Monty. Well, the problem is you can't see both of them in the Super Bowl because they're playing against each other today. I see. So you're going to have to pick one who has the most likely choice being there. Lawson. Carl Lawson, is that who you're talking about? Yeah, he's done some good things, but he's still so young. And he's not done, he hasn't had the time yet to be there to really, really make a name for himself. Auburn has done well with kickers, money. I think, I probably just brushed over that one because it's the obvious answer, unfortunately. That's all Auburn. That's Auburn does one thing well: put kickers in the NFL. Who we got? Like Parkey, Anders. I feel like there's one more I'm listening or I'm forgetting there. The other Carlson brother will be there very, very soon. So yes, that's very true. I do think that defensive backs that we've been putting in the NFL maybe not be the biggest names out there, like Patrick Peterson and all that kind of stuff. That's a household name, but I mean Carlton Davis is heading that way. I do like that pick, Imani. Carlton Davis is, I think, one that's going to shine in the Super Bowl, and I'm really, really excited to have him there. My nose is itching today for some reason. I don't know why. It's all them allergies out there. Crawdaddy says Legatron. So yeah, we called the first Anders Carlson the first. We called him Legatron. I even started calling him Legatron 6000 because of his, I think, 6 kicks he made in a game one time. So every time he would make one, I would put, 1,000 on him. So Legatron 6000 is what I called him. Del Greco was a good one. Definitely a good one. Oh, that's some good picks right there, E. Daniel Thomas. He's starting to really, really make a name for himself at the NFL level. And then Darius Slayton is definitely trending upward. I just wish he was on a better team. But the problem with that is if you weren't on a better team, maybe there's not more opportunities to shine. So maybe he found the perfect situation where, and think about when he was here, he was with some wide receivers that kind of stole the show from him. So, it's kind of one of those things that we probably didn't realize how great we had it with Darius Slayton because we had so many other great wide receivers while he was here. So it's great for him that he's found a moment in time to shine over there. Who else in the NFL this year or recently has really shined for you guys? Who sticks out to you, and who is ones that you're proud to see in there right now? A. Robinson says that Darius Slayton needs a quarterback. The Giants need a quarterback like. I'm trying to think of a good analogy, but I can't think of one. But they need a quarterback, yeah. But see how much he's done with not much quarterback help there as well. So, and again, I just think that he's really benefiting from a situation that probably wasn't so good. And you got to love the Uzama story that he just brought up right here. CJ Uzama over there at the Bengals, I believe still. He didn't receive a lot of hype here at Auburn during his time. Made a few good catches. I'll always remember him for that catch in the end zone against Mississippi State for Nick Marshall to win the game. And he did a lot of that in the NFL. If he could just stay healthy. See, that's the big thing is I feel like the story always revolves around Auburn players going to the NFL, making a name for themselves, but then getting hurt. It's frustrating because they do so good. Derek Brown should be a Pro Bowler in a few years, maybe even next year at the rate he's going because he's wrecking havoc over there for Carolina. And isn't it so funny as, when, again, we can all, I think, agree that Cam has not had the best few years, but you kind of don't like a team for getting rid of your player. And so the Panthers getting rid of Cam kind of left a bad taste in most people's mouths. But then when they go and draft Derek Brown, then it's kind of like, oh man, I don't want to hate you, but I kind of do, but you still got this guy. So yeah. A.U. Robinson said he'd be a top 10 wide receiver with a good quarterback. I do think that he's trajecting that way, right? I do think that he's kind of heading that direction. I'll be honest with you, I don't watch a ton of NFL. I follow it at a distance until it gets to about this point. A, I don't have a lot of time. B, I just value the game of college football more. But, I try to stay up to date on it. And from my understanding is if you made a list of the top 20 wide receivers, at least in production, Darius might be kind of working his way into that if he hasn't already. What do you guys think? Do you think he's a top 20 wide receiver in the NFL right now? I mean, he's pretty valuable for the Giants. And with 32 teams, I think is what it is. Yeah, 32 teams. If you can make yourself close to the top 20, that's pretty good. Thomas is here. War Eagle to you, sir. I think Uzama is really good. Actually caught the Joe Burrow's first touchdown pass. There you go. So that could be a nice little connection that's starting there with the Bengals with Joe Burrows and how good he is. And that could pan out to be a good thing here. So a few opinions here talking about Darius Slayton, whether he is a top 20 or close to it. We got a yes, no, not even close. Hillbilly, don't mince words here. Tell me exactly what you think about it. And I do agree with this statement. College football is greater than the NFL. Don't get me wrong. I love football in any aspect. I probably, if that's all I had, would watch Canadian football. I'd watch it if it's out there. I was watching the XFL last year. In fact, I was really loving the XFL because of the amount of Auburn players that were in it as well. I mean, watching Cameron Artis-Payne dominate for the Dallas Renegades was top notch. So I wish that had not. I wish the pandemic had not forced them into bankruptcy because I really was rooting for it. I want some spring football, y'all. Nico Thorpe and Josh Bynes has managed to stay in the league for a good while, and that I'm glad you brought that up because when I was kind of reminding myself of some players that were there, it feels like we've transitioned from the old guard, which would be like the early 2000s and stuff like that. And they're kind of the last ones there that are, of that era, the Nico Thorpes, the Josh Bynes. And I guess Josh is really, he was there in 2011 and 2010. So it's not that close, but they do kind of feel like the last of an old guard for Auburn being in the NFL. And there's a new generation shifting into there. So that's a great point. Question, did T. Will play in 3-4 defensive? I guess is what you're asking. I do not think that he did not play in a 3-4 here at Auburn. It was a 4-3, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have some familiarity with it. I had to go. Any new news? Any new news, Jack? No, nothing that, if you're asking about the Tracy Rocker situation. Bynes was a legitimate player. I'll always remember, I think it was he laid a nasty hit on an Arkansas player in the 2010 season, the championship season. Being in the student section, watching him work was just amazing. Braden Smith for the Colts is a good one as well. So here's the thing is this is a good time for Auburn fans that maybe not such, like myself, are not such big NFL fans to kind of invest in a little bit more because there really is a new crop that has been sent there during the Coach Malzahn era that's starting to kind of really flourish, where it's the Darius Slaytons on offense, whether it's, Derek Brown's out there, where it's a Braden Smith, where, there's potential for tons of Auburn players to be making some really good headway on some teams in the next few seasons, which I'm really, really excited about. So how about this? Let's ask this question of everybody here. Who's the one player? I think we all agree right now that the most dominant player and the most prominent player for Auburn in the NFL is D Ford. Let's shift 10 years from now. Let's imagine we had this conversation 10 years from now. Who's the most dominant Auburn player in the NFL that is currently there? What do you think? Who will be the big name? Because by this time, Cam will be gone. By this time, obviously Thorpe's and D Ford's and Josh Bynes's will be gone. But who's the big name that's in the NFL for Auburn at that point? Who do you think that's going to be? Anybody got some Jarrett Stidham love out there? Probably not. I like Jarrett Stidham. I felt bad for him. We have 2 quarterbacks for Auburn in the NFL, and you put them on the same team. It's frustrating, man. Carlson's got a good chance to break the kick record. Gruden stopped him, though. Gruden stops a lot of things. He is a stealer of joy, as much as I love the dude. Is spring ball going to happen? Don't think so. I think if things were opened up by now, Hillbilly, we might be talking about that. I think it was The Rock was talking about trying to revive the XFL again, or not revive it, but get it back on its feet for this. But I haven't heard anything about that. This is the answer that I thought everybody would be saying for who's the prominent player in the NFL for Auburn 10 years from now. Derrick Brown. Honestly, that's going to be the case there. 2 other contenders Jack brings up, Slayton and Davis, or Carlton Davis. He's all of a sudden a top 5 corner. I don't think it's all of a sudden. I think he's been that way for a while. It's just becoming clear how much he does for that defense. Anybody know how Marlon is doing on the Falcons? Hopefully Derrick Brown will be a big name. I think that's a good choice. Marlon, I haven't heard a lot about him at the Falcons, which is a little concerning. Trey Mason was the most disappointing, had high hopes for him. And this is the most frustrating thing about players who had so much talent and so much potential, and they just couldn't get their lives together. And I'm not saying that to dog them, because some people have some issues in their lives that they just need help with. And I think Trey was one of those, and I think that's coming from his own mouth. I remember there was a scary time after he kind of lost his spot. I think he was in a pretty dark place. I think he admitted that in an interview or two. But he was so dominant in college, at least for that 1 year. But he was good from the day one he got here. I think he had a chance with his power. Even as smaller on the side he was, his power. In fact, y'all can't see it back here, but there's a photo. In fact, it's a little bit covered up anyway. But there's a frame picture my wife got me for Christmas after the 2013 season, because I stormed the field, and I was down there in craziness. All of a sudden, Trey Mason pops up in front of me, and we just start dancing together. And there's a picture that a newspaper took, and they put me in the front page with Trey Mason. It was in the Decatur Daily. That's what it was, Decatur, Alabama Daily. And they just didn't realize, or we have family up there. And we were looking at the paper one day, and they're like, that's Kyle. So I have that picture up there. It's not a frame, it's framed, but not meant to go on the wall, and it's too small to fill up this space up here. That'll get filled up eventually. Don't y'all worry. I know that bothers some of y'all. Derrick, yes, I'm with you. Derrick Brown is probably the guy. I think honestly, if we all look right now and project 10 years in the future, you probably got a top 3 of Derrick Brown, probably Carlton Davis if number 2, and then Darius Slayton. Darius, though, if he keeps up, gets a better quarterback, who knows? Don't forget about Justin Powell. We're talking about the NFL, though, unless that you're talking about someone else. Carlos Dansby, aren't they still in playing now? Don't think Carlos is still playing. I think he is done with his time now. That seems like he should be done by now, because that would have been almost 20 years that he would have been in the NFL. Yeah, everybody seems to be agreeing here with those top 3. In the next 10 years, Tank will be the top running back in the NFL. There's potential there, right? But that's why I asked the question, who's there right now? Because we can jump out and say maybe Seth Williams kind of gets everything together and becomes a great NFL wide receiver. Tank Bigsby can do that as well. So there's a lot of players that are currently on this squad that could be in there within these next 10 years. But I'm talking about who is here right now. And I like that top 3 of Derrick Brown, Carlton Davis, and Darius Slayton. I would throw the kickers in there as well. I think Daniel Carlson, when all is said and done, will be one of the best kickers that the NFL has ever seen. Let's see. Mason went crazy. I feel bad for him. I really do. He went crazy on the field, and unfortunately, he did go crazy a little bit off the field as well. It's some players just, and some people, not players, people just have some things that they've got to deal with in their life. Oh, great pick, Crawdaddy. Iggy for the Dolphins, maybe. Now, he's had one season, so we can't really make strong judgments one way or the other on him. But he's His athletic talent alone. I mean, I went and saw him at track meets, y'all. I went to some Auburn track meets and watched his jumping ability. Dude, he can jump out of a building, man, or over a building. So the talent, athletic ability is there. Will it all come together? All right, we're going to go ahead and say goodbye to the Facebook folks. Everybody wave bye to them. Thank y'all for being here. We always stay a little bit longer on YouTube, but thank y'all for being here. Had a good crowd. All right, YouTube folks, let's go through the last minute stuff at the end here. I know y'all's favorite part. As we do that, if you've enjoyed this live stream, please do smash the like button. Consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell so you know when we go live. We'll probably be live again tomorrow, late morning maybe. Don't really know exactly when we'll be going live, but it'll be sometime tomorrow. But do all those things for me real quick. And as always, if you haven't, please do consider doing a few of these things to help support our podcast network. The easiest thing that you can do is just listen to the podcast that we have out there. And here's the link in there for you for the Apple podcast. If you go check that out. By the way, I know a few of you have done it recently, and thank y'all so much. If you're listening on Apple Podcast, would you do me a huge favor and go give us a review? Even if it's a 1-star and you hate us, I don't care. We always can take constructive criticism. That is a huge help, though, in helping share out the Auburn family that our podcasts are out there. We also have our Patreon campaign, the E2C Network Booster Club, where you can sign up for as little as $1 a month. Get yourself some perks at different levels. You can check all those out at that website that I've just posted in the comment chat window right now if you'd like to go take it out. Just a heads up that you can sign up right now and not have to pay till the beginning of next month and kind of see if it's worth your while, even for as little as $1 a month. So there you go. That is your options. A couple other options to help support us financially if you'd like to keep this content coming here on YouTube and on the podcast channel. So let's get last minute comments, questions. Get them in now. Can be anything, everything. Doesn't even have to be Auburn related. Let's do this. Salt Army, you got here right at the the end of things, but I'm glad you're here. Is head coach is one of the best defensive. His head coach is one of the best defensive minds in the NFL, Brian Flores. Let me go back to see exactly who you're talking about. Jack, Tank. Tank, is that who you're talking about? Sorry, it's hard to keep track of exactly who you're talking about. Or maybe you're talking about the Dolphins. Salt asks, is it true Tracy Rocker is going to the Eagles? I was sent that from my source right as I was clicking go live here, so I trust them. Seems like it's going to be happening. And that kind of creates a lot of confusion and a lot of kind of hurt feelings, I think, in terms of the Auburn family. Oh, you were talking about Igbenogany. Yeah, so let's take, I don't want to take a quick poll of the room again, but because we already kind of did that. But I guess, would you ever want Tracy Rocker back again if he does leave as a coach? Obviously, come back to the school and come visit us, but would y'all ever want him again as a coach if he decides to leave this time? And I'm not saying like the dude can't ever leave if he does come here, but I would want you to finish out a season. I understand if you get better opportunities because you're only a positional coach, but don't. I just don't get the whole leave back and forth. If Rocker leaves, who would be the one on your list? I'll answer that in just a second. Nope. No. He should go to the NFL if he gets the opportunity. I agree with that. I think if that's where he wants to be, he needs to take that opportunity, but I don't know that I would want to take a chance on him again. No. So, E, what you asked, and I don't know if you were here for this, and I didn't come up with this. I forget who it was. I initially was saying I don't see Travis Williams coming back. But I think this is favorable for everybody here. Instead of going on another search to find a defensive line coach, unless there was like a really good number 2 that he had on his list, let Jeff Schmedding, the guy you brought over from Boise State, coach the defensive line, stay as the defensive run game coordinator, and bring T. Will into one of those open linebacker positions. You can even move one guy over to inside and him to outside. I think that makes everybody happy. It's a win-win at this point, and it solidifies things. And I think recruiting-wise, it'll solidify some things as well. Hillbilly does not take too kindly to people leaving. I will differ from you, that Hillbilly. I will take any depth and stability we can get at this point. Imani says Rodney Garner will be first on the list. I don't have any qualms with us keeping Rodney Garner. I just think it's, something at this point that probably needs to move to do something different. T. Will, even though he's never coached defensive line, if T. Will stays or comes back, it will not be at the defensive line. You're going to have to either move somebody around, and there's a strong possibility that could happen, in my opinion. Not off of some source I have. That's just my opinion. Adjust and rearrange, then add T. Will. There we go. That's what we were just talking about. You have a Malzahn staffer on each offensive and defense to help with the transition. Beautifully written there. And see, that's what I've been talking about all along with this whole transition is we need to maintain some stability somewhere. And if you want to do that, using this golden opportunity you have, even though we're kind of being jilted by Tracy Rocker yet again, bring T. Will back in. Offense and defense has something for the current team that has been here through the Malzahn era to rally around, hold on together, and build this for the future. I think that's the best of a bad situation. I'm not coach, though, so it's his decision. He says he'd give Big Cat a pass. He did 4 years and played in the bowl after. And see, that's a big thing why I would give him a pass, because he didn't have to play, and he did. Same goes for Seth. Same goes for a lot of the players that played in that bowl game that did not have to, that were planning on leaving or going somewhere else. I give him a big pass on that. He is not someone that did not value Auburn. I think he was really hurt by the Coach Malzahn firing, and I understand that, but I don't make those decisions, so that's probably a great thing there. Travis come back. Wallace will sign. Also, you talking about Trevin Wallace? Yes. Also think with Rocker gone, BK will stay. BK, who is BK? I'm sorry, not blanking on that one. Can we get Gus to coach the D-line? My low-key favorite coach. No, because if Auburn fans are going to need a scapegoat again in there, if you want to put him back in there, he can be the scapegoat. This was a weird year for so many reasons. I'm more willing to give people passes because of that. And I had hoped that was going to be the case across the board, but free passes were few and far between this year. So who knows? BK, sorry, Big Cat. But we as Auburn fan can't complain about it because we did pluck away some from South Carolina coaching staff. You must accept what they dish out. Fair point. Fair points all around. Great some points on this stream today. I think that's going to wrap my time up here with you guys. I really appreciate y'all being here and hope you enjoy the NFL games today. Cheer on those Auburn Tigers that are participating today. Obviously heavy on that Tampa Bay Buccaneers side, which is probably why I'm not pulling for them. I'm pulling for the Auburn players, but not the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But hope that you'll be back tomorrow. We'll probably do a live stream unless some other big news happens. We'll talk about maybe some Auburn baseball stuff. So if you haven't, please like the stream on your way out if you enjoyed this, and subscribe and hit the notification bell. Thank y'all so much for being here today. War Eagle, my friends. We'll talk to you later.